Okay. Hey, there we go. Yep. I'm in makeup today. Right? I love my own sense of hysterical irony. Before we get started with the book, I want to do kind of like a precursor. Give it some warm up time. So I picked a fight this week. I'm a little proud of it. uh, I was noticing an X post from Jake Chansley Angeli, America's shaman, formerly known as the Q Shaman, formerly calling himself Admiral Jake Angeli because he was duped by some sort of voice to skull situation or some sort of psychic harassment into believing that he was recruited into the Men Who Stare at Goats program. And this is how he proceeded to conduct himself on Rumble. But I loved what he was covering. So, okay, he's crazy, he's eccentric, and I only have really one subconscious issue with Jake, and it is that he still calls himself also a shaman when, with what he knows, which is a lot like what I know, he should know better than to continue to consider that appropriate despite what he can do. Because I promise you, after listening to a lot of his work, while half the fucking country was making a mockery of him, And I didn't mind so much that he called himself a shaman at the time because of what our needs were. But what we are is not appropriate to call shaman. And what I'm saying is that things that Jake does is similar to what I do. Right? Because I'm activated with my gifts and I'm doing my thing. He's activated with his gifts and he's doing his thing. Right? That doesn't make me a shaman. But there's nothing that he's doing that I'm not doing, other than the stuff that he is doing with the fame that he got for following his heart. I think he's a patsy. I don't think he's a psyop. I think he's a patsy. I give him that much benefit of the doubt because I know what it's like to live on that level of grandiosity. All right? You're talking to a guy who on Revolution Radio in 2016 got Roger Stone. How did I fucking get Roger Stone? I don't know. How did I get Micah Dank? People are very surprised by the people I can get. But believe me, I'm also disappointed at some of the ones I never got or haven't gotten yet. And by never got, I mean they passed away. All right. So, the first thing I wanted to do here is, so Etim Online says that a shaman is a noun from 1690, which was actually coming from a German word called shaman, which was our word for their priests of the Ural Altaic people of Northern Asia, right? Probably, right? So, and also from Russian shaman, from Tungus Sa-man, which according to OED is perhaps from Chinese sha-men, Buddhist monk, right? So Buddhist monk also has an etymological relationship. Yeah. So, Jake, we don't live like Buddhist monks. Come the fuck on. From Prakrit Samaya, from Sanskrit Sahramanas, Buddhist ascetic, and extended to similar personages in other parts. OED, especially Native Americans, related shamanic. Right? Maybe shamanic is fine. Once you add the ick to it, you're saying, I'm not calling myself that, but it's like it. Right? But the point is that you still don't have something that you're calling yourself. And then you get sick and tired of saying ick, because it's like saying sick. It's like I'm a sick shaman. I'm a shaman of sickness. I'm a sick shaman. You get it, right? It's just like I'm a shaman, but I'm like I'm like not well at the same time. That's kind of what's kind of playing in the mind there with the way our words lurk in our heads for many of us, right? This is why the multi-meaning of things, the pun craft, is, yes, funny, but also absolutely essential to understanding everything. So now I am going to ask ChatGPT, what is a shaman? And I'm logged in, so it's not going to give me old information. All right. A shaman is a spiritual figure found in many indigenous and traditional cultures worldwide. Shamans are believed to have the ability to communicate with the spirit world, heal the sick, and guide their communities through rituals and ceremonies. They often enter trance-like states, sometimes induced by drumming, chanting, fasting, or the use of psychoactive plants. Shamans serve as intermediaries between human and spiritual realms, helping with healing, divination, ritual ceremonies, soul retrieval, and protection. Now, I'm going to get to a point, because they do all these things, but you can go and jump into an occupation that fulfills all of that stuff. You can do that occupationally because you can develop those talents, including psychic ability. You don't have to fucking go through a near-death experience to become psychic, and you might need a near-death experience to be a medium, I suppose. But then again, why aren't mediums called shamans or whatever, right? Because they don't do enough of the things they don't have exactly the right relationship or history or whatnot, right? But then, like, they're witches perhaps. But so it exists in many cultures such as Siberia, Native American, Amazonian, Mongolian, right? And it existed like in the primordial of every culture. So, okay, what is the most common initiation of a shaman across cultures? So I'm asking I'm asking ChatGPT the question in that particular manner, because my hope is that it understands that what I am asking is a question that gives him an inroad as a white boy like me, right? Because unless he's got Siberian bloodline, he's going to have a better chance at being a shaman for real if he sticks most primarily within his ancestral sphere, which I'm going to assume is more like mine, right? I don't know if he's Italian. He's got Italian going on there. This works, all right. Across cultures, shamanic initiation typically follows a pattern of spiritual crisis, suffering, and transformation, right? And it has to be a certain kind, right? It's not like you had to have like a hard time in prison or something like that. These initiations, you're supposed to nearly die, typically. Let's see what ChatGPT is going to answer. But that's my point. Is I don't think Jake had like a properly initiatorily, done near-death experience to activate his channels, right? I think he got it through other work. So we have the call. Some shamans are chosen by spirits through visions, dreams, or unexplained illnesses. The call is also what it's called when a child is born with the amniotic sac around their head. My buddy Rock Castaldo from the Exploring the Ka channel, he was born with the call. He is, I wish I knew the most appropriate thing to say about him, right? Because he doesn't even like to say what may qualify as him, just because you don't really do that kind of a thing, right? You can't do it. You just have to be who you are, and hopefully it's just understandably self-evident to people, right? And you're not out there on some overtly grandiose mission, right? I mean, I might maybe on an overtly grandiose mission, which is also why I want the liberation of not calling myself a shaman, because I don't think a shaman should go on an overtly grandiose mission. I want the freedom to go slay my dragon. The shaman doesn't slay the dragon. The shaman is Merlin. Merlin finds the hero that slays the dragon. I'm more interested in finding the shaman so my warrior can do his thing. I'm more interested in that jazz. Because I don't think you had to do a near-death experience to be an Ulfidnar, and you still had quote, shamanic things that you can do, right? But at the end of the day, my point is that you being you with all your abilities activated, it ought to be enough. This is why in comic books, it's often the superheroes get their cheesy names because of the newspapers, right? So the newspapers, meaning the psyche of the public, names the character. Otherwise, they don't care. They're either incognito or they just have their own style. Anywho, suffering, death, and rebirth experience, which is point number 2 here. Many initiations involve severe physical or emotional suffering, such as illness, isolation, or intense dreams. The initiate may feel as though they are dying or being dismembered in visions. I mean, I've had dreams where I've been devoured by spiders. Okay? That may activate me for... That actually, I know for a fact that activated things with me, right? But it's just a fucking nightmare. It's not a big... Everybody has the fucking nightmares, right? And many people even handle nightmares very well, similar to how I did. But if you're not tuned in, you're not paying attention to the significance of what it meant that you handled that nightmare well. And you may not realize it's the reason why something's going better with your day. Me, something's been going better with my life. But anyway... Learning from spirits and elders. Okay, that's another particular thing. And I don't think we have an elder guide for Jake because of circumstances, and then this all ties into his admiral thing. Right? Because he was a chosen one by the inner, this is like David Icke, right? David Icke came on the scene and said, I'm Jesus Christ. And then everybody said, no, you're not. And then he said, there are reptilians. And then everybody forgot that he said he was Jesus Christ. And this is David Icke. And David Icke has never had to renounce that he's said that he is Jesus Christ. And he doesn't want to talk about it. So, Jake, let's talk about it, because you're being a fool. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks, AI! Ridiculous. I know. All right, where are we at? All right, that's from the old show. May not... Do I even... Yes, I do. Fox it. Thank you. Ah, perfect! Hold on, I think it moved. Oh, the page moved on me. There we are. That's where I wanted to be, this page. Let me check the chat room before I kick into gear over here. I want to say hi to Thelonious Terp and drummer Corey. Thank you. Shoot. All right. So anyway, I have to get the various kinds of. I have to figure out exactly what the words for our equivalencies. These words are close to English words, that I know, or it's some word that's close to magician, close to wizard, or close to witch, or something like that. That makes the explanation for. Somebody who has the gift or got initiated to have the gift, so on and so forth. All right. By the way, I'm very excited. I'm seeing Tyr in Brooklyn on Thursday. So... Anybody from New York that wants to meet me, I'm going to be at the Tyr show. Just hanging out, not expecting a goddamn thing. Personal analysis, Diary 3, life work. At this point, you have a complete runic analysis of your personality, at least at one level. These bright and murky lists should now be put into practice. In sections of the third door below, where you are asked to pick certain runes to meditate on, etc., use runes that will either strengthen your bright information you can utilize in such exercises as runic breathing below, where the rune is virtually absorbed into your very being in a highly intensified state. Also at the point, the runer should take up the intensive study of self-transformation. One of the best systems for our purposes is that of psychosynthesis. The runers may learn about all they need to know about this complex of techniques, of which they should make free use in 2 books, Psychosynthesis and the Act of Will by Roberto Assaglioli. Assaglioli. In addition, one might wish to start on the analysis of dreams. Probably the best system for this is provided by the Jungian Senoi Dreamwork Manual by Stephen Kaplan-Williams. Remember, the Odeon explores many avenues, and not all Odeons will make use of the same tools to grow. Vocalic breathing. 3. By now in your general studies, you should have a very good idea of the conceptual meaning behind each rune stave. Each stave should have a certain intuitive feel to it. The runic sense will continue to grow and deepen as you go deeper into rune thinking. However, at this point, you can begin to make practical use of these senses. A similar intuitive sense should now be cultivated for the elements. See Futhark 74 and 75 and Rune Lore 149 and 153. These elements are actually symbols for certain virtually sensual categorizations of subjective sensibilities. Use them in this way. You can intensify and rebalance your subjective universe through the use of these elemental symbols. The Germanic system of elements. The system of elements as taught within the traditional Germanic system is something different from that found within the Platonic Hermetic tradition. Although the underlying principles are the same and the methods are hold on a second, lost my place. And the methods of working with them is similar. They do represent 2 of the several different systems ultimately derived from the Indo-European system of the analysis of the subtle distinctions in substances. In the Teutonic system, there are 2 primary elements: fire, which is expansive heat, and dynamic expansion, and ice, which is contractive, cold, and absolute lack of vibration. In these 2 primary elements, all absolute or extreme opposites are embodied: light and dark energy and matter, etc. In addition, there are 2 secondary elements derived from the primary ones: air from fire, which is an all-pervasive formless space, and water from ice, which is the still and deep matrix for form. In addition, there are 4 lesser elements: iron, inert hardness; yeast, organicism; salt, substance of organic life; and venom, dissolution. The final element, earth, is a synthesis of the other 8 and represents the ultimate state of potentialities. Okay, that's interesting. So, all right, so there's ice and fire and air and water, iron, yeast, salt, and venom. That's actually, I love, that's cool. Oh, that puts thoughts in my head. Very cool. And it's also, like, it's a little bit interesting because, like, in the Thunder Wheel, if you know the chart at this point or not, the south, being the Muspelheim area, is associated with Mars, and iron is associated with Mars. And the blood is associated with iron. So, so iron and fire having that relationship, they're both in the south, but the iron, that can actually go, that could probably go in the southeast under Svartalfheim, because that's where the dwarves would be working with the iron. That makes sense. And I think that would put either the salt or the yeast in Alfheim. The venom would be in Helheim. Yeah, I'll get it straightened out. I'll get it. It's just a question of where the yeast and the salt go, and I'm not sure yet. All right. Now the way he's got it mapped out. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there you go. Southeast iron. Yep. Okay. So, all right. Okay. So the salt is northeast. So the salt is in the realm of Asgard, and then the yeast is going up to Alfheim. Okay, great. That makes perfect sense to me. In a steva that is comfortable for you. Sitting or standing, visualize yourself surrounded by a sphere. The sphere is filled with the essence of an element of your choice. Use whatever set of associations you need. Color, smell, texture, and even sound or taste to evoke the essence of a given element. Fill the space of your sphere with it. Make it intensely present. But the space that your body occupies within that sphere will be a vacuum with regard to that element. The essence is intense within the sphere, but totally lacking within your physical vehicle. Now, begin a regular rhythm of breathing. Visualize the essence of the element entering into the vacuum created by your body. With each breath you take, more of the elemental essence within your personal space, and the intensity becomes correspondingly less within the sphere. Keep this up until you have totally reversed the polarity. Now the element is intensely present in your body, but it has been totally drawn out of the surrounding sphere. Do this a few times with each element. Runic breathing. There are a variety of techniques for runic breathing. Each of these methods should be experimented with. As above, you can fill a sphere surrounding your person to a distance of some 4 to 5 feet around your body in all directions. With a certain runic force, use any keys, shape, color, etc. to evoke the presence of the force in the sphere. Remember to make your body space void of this presence. It is the gap within a magical space. Again, use a steady breath rhythm to draw all of the runic force out of the sphere into your personal space. It is now more completely brought under your control. Technique 1 is basically designed to be used with single runes. However, you may also learn to breathe the Futhark by visualizing Fehu before you and breathing it in, assimilating it into your lungs and spreading it throughout your system. Then doing the same with Uruz, and so on until you have gone through the whole Futhark, especially in this exercise. But really, with all similar work, it is good to concentrate on bringing in the force on the inhalation, on assimilating and distributing it through the system on the whole, and preparing the way for the next phase. on the exhalation, visualizing the next rune during the outhold phase of the rhythm. Another way to breathe the runes is by breathing in the whole Futhark in one breath. This is best done with a slow rhythm. Visualize and audialize the runes F through O being drawn in and circulated on the inhalation hold, and then reverse the process O through F upon exhaltation. Repeat as often as necessary. You can also do a similar exercise in which the Futhark is divided into the Erts, or Etir, and done 8 at a time. Let your fetch be your guide. Beginning Galdr, the practice of Galdr. OE, Galdr, OHG, Galster, on Gelder. In the most effective magical combinations of breath and sound, the incantation, as most runers already know, in the ancient North there were essentially two modes. That was a funny place to find an error. There were toe modes, I tell you. There were big toes, little toes, pinky toes, I tell you, of magical workings, differentiated by the Old Norse word Galdr and Seith. We will consider many details of Seith in some details in doors 7 through 9. For now, let it be said that Galdr is based on oral or vocalic performance and is rooted in verbal symbolism. The etymology of the word connects it with the word for the sound a crow or raven makes. Gala, to call as a raven. It might be further pointed out that the verbal symbolic aspect of this kind of magic place is within the realm of Hugin, the left hemisphere of the brain. Conversely, the practice of Seith is within the realm of Munin, the right hemisphere of the brain. Right. So, and those hemispheres are going to have their correspondences to giving and receiving, right? So output to input. And memory, Munin, is going to be input, receptive. Where Hugin, which is thought, or from the mind created, that's going to be coming out from the right brain, right, where the creativity lies as such. Practice. Actually, you have already made the first steps in the outer practice of Galdr with the intonations of the vocalic sounds in the U working and in vocalic breathing. The true craft of Galdr, however, is in the imbuing of the vibratory formulas with meaning, with traditional symbolic values that can then be used for magical transformative purposes. The book tape package, the book tape package called Rune Song from Runaraven is perhaps your most easily available guide. Ooh, I may have smudged my makeups. Do I look terrible? I have to take a quick look. I hope I don't look terrible. But, because I'm going to have to go another 20 minutes before I take a break. Could be worse. Oh well. Alright, whatever. Alright, it looks silly now. I think it looks silly. But that's okay. It's very silly because I am not a shaman. I'm just allowed to have fun and be very good at what I do. Beginning Galdr. Practice. Actually, you have already made... book tapes, guys. For the duration of this door, 240 days, practice and awaken each of the 24 staves for 10 days in the following manner. Take the basic phonetic value, for example, the fehu, and combine it with the ah sound that is in the ah rune. Repeat the resulting sound formula in the instance fa in a monotonal song in which the F sound and the A sound are approximately of equal duration. Each singing of each combination should take up one exaltation of breath. When dealing with consonantal sounds that cannot be pronounced continuously, such as the K sound, the short syllabic formula ka should be repeated until the breath is exhausted. Ka 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 ka, etc. The vowel. I'm assuming that I sounded that out correctly, but that's what it is. It's making the ka 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 sound is how that reads to me. The vowels can be combined, a, u, or aa, etc. With the a rune, you will be dealing with an essentially pure vocalic formula. Now, is the runer's attitude during these exercises? The A rune is used to awaken and to keep awake certain levels of magical Odian consciousness. In this state of open awareness, the symbolic values of the runes can begin to be more deeply imbued into the sounds. The exact keys you use to activate these runo-symbolic values are somewhat left up to the individual runer, but in general, the esoteric keywords used in Futhark rune lore and at the Well of Weird might be your best guides. Realize these meanings as you sing the simple Galdr formulas. You may supplement your exercises in any way you see fit with techniques of visualization you've learned already. Okay. Remember, you are helping to impress upon the sound formula deep levels of meaning, which you will later be able to call upon when needed at first. Spend 5 minutes in this pursuit, extending it eventually to 10 minutes. This is a minimum time for regular practice. So, I would say that you would want to do maybe 6 minutes to 9 minutes, because you know me and keeping things on the nines. All right, signing and sending 1. In Futhark, the technique of sign Galdr was briefly mentioned. It is at this stage of rune work that this practice will begin to be most beneficial. These pages in Futhark should be restudied at this point. Some of the things expressed there may be more meaningful now than when you first read them. This type of Galdr is one that will continue to develop in the runer almost indefinitely. The theory of how sign Galdr works is a fascinating one. The outer technique of signing is simple. You merely trace the stave form in the air before yourself with your finger, gond, or other suitable tool. Of course, other signs and more complex Gald Rastafir are also executed in this fashion, but for now we are concentrating on the 24 rune staves. The inner work which accompanies this outer performance is also fairly simple. Based on what you have learned and are learning about the energy system visualized in your body in the U working, you will have found the central column of power and the vertical epicenter of the column in the region of the solar plexus. It is this region, by means of the projecting instrument, that the rune sign will be cast forth to work your will. Again, here you are to practice each of the 24 rune staves in succession for 10 days. Strongly visualize the stave flaming red in your heart, that is your ghostly heart or center wheel. When it is firmly fixed, either touch your center and with a sweeping gesture extend your arm straight out, before you in preparation for tracing the stave. Or simply visualize a beam of red or white light extending from your center to your already extended hand, as in figure 3.3, which is what we have here below. The light is extended through your hand and or gond forward to a point of your choosing in front of you. A natural barrier, for example, a wall or tree, could be used, or you may wish to pick an imagined point in space before you for the manifestation of the signed stave. At that point, trace the rune stave shape, and you may also want to intone the rune name at the same time. Although you should also experiment in silence during this phase. Hey, what's up, Violence? And repeat the process with full attention. From 10 to 20 minutes, from 10 to 20 times. You may do more if you find it effective. A little stuffy. Bear with me. A brief word can be said concerning the symbolism of the technique. Deep in our hearts, all runers carry the full matrix of rune staves as a seed form. The matrix can perhaps best be visualized as the seed form Futhark, as shown in figure 3.4, which will probably be that figure you just saw a flash of. What's up, Drew? Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. You're new here. Where'd you find out about me? It will be noted that this seed form or matrix, mother rune, contains the shape of all the runes of either the elder or younger Futhark. And that the form is not limited to a two-dimensional model. With imagination, it can be seen in there, as well as two-dimensional form. Mediation on this matrix rune will be in and of itself beneficial. Oh, just on the homepage. Cool. I am not so cringy that I don't show up on someone's interest list. And this channel will be doing some more interesting things in the near future. So this is the seed form matrix, right? So obviously we see the Ingvaj rune is right there in the center of it. It's also like a double Hagalaj, and I'm talking about Hagalaz, the younger Futhark Hagalaz, right? Like if you take out the cubic sides of it in either one, it's easy to see them. So So anyway, in the heart, the rune is formed by the will of the runer and given inner subjective life. It is then cast forth to the hand of Gond, that is the active agent of the runer's will, to effect changes in the objective world. Through this tool of the will, an image is shape upon the objective world in accordance with the shape in the subjective one. The ring is being forged. The fact that the image cast upon the object world is actually a shaping of the subjective world should not be lost. And that subjective world is the primary thing that's operating your personal Dasein, which gets back into all the Heidegger stuff that I was reading. Drew, if you didn't know, I read Heidegger, Being in Time. All of it, except for the last part that's never been made available. But everything that anybody else could have ever read. Maybe one day, because I read it, somebody will say, wow, Steve proved that consciousness is ready for us to bring them the last part of being in time. And then I read it, and apparently he was talking about the Jews. Ah! No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding! I have no idea. Statha Work 3. For illustrations of the various Stuthur, the runer is referred to the runic tables in Futhark. For 24 days, the runer is to practice the I-rune Statha. Begin with the 10 minutes attained in the standing position in the last door and expand it to 20 minutes by the end of the 24-day period. During this time, you may intone the vocalic formula and or the rune name Isa experiment with both possibilities. Along with silence, find out which of these variants help you to call up the significance of Isa. It may be interesting to note at this point that the early 20th century German runic occultists typically began their rune yoga exercise programs with the I rune. For more on this, see Rune Might, the Wailuin, 1989. The main reason why it is used in this position here is its basic, basic simplicity. Okay. There we go. As a form, and coupled with the cosmogonic fact that ice is the first material principle. In Germanic cosmology, to which the first principle of energy, fire, is added, begin now with the F rune and follow a similar plan as you did with the I rune. Only this time you will practice for 18 days, not 24. Again, gradually increase your time of work from 5 to 10 minutes. 10 minutes is really a minimum time to aim for. On occasion, you may feel a call to go beyond this. This is why I think it's good to get up to about 18 minutes, and if you can give yourself 18 minutes, meaning 20 minutes realistically, you're good. All right. Hi, Elizabeth. This is about Norse magic. We are talking about Norse magic. You're listening to a replay of Styx, Hex, and Hammer live today, and scroll down. Oh, that's cool. Did Styx show his bare chest like I did? Is that why you saw me? Because it was just like, oh, God, the long-haired fucking narcissists are all live streaming. Anyway. Okay, begin with the F rune, 24, right. You will then proceed to the rest of the first half of the Futhark, stave F through J, spending 18 days on each stave, then give yourself 204 days in completion, to Othala, plus 18 times 12 equals 240. Right, okay, cool. I don't remember if he explained why 240 is the number. Of course, much of the other work contained in this and previous doors has been adding to your general skills of concentration and visualization. Here we will expand on the program of concentration and visualization and bring that together with rune thinking. By now you have at least preliminarily meditated on 24 runes of the Elder Futhark and have gained a good deal of formal ability in concentrating on individual stave shapes. Over the 240 days of this door, you should spend 10 days apiece on each of the 24 staves, imbuing them in silence with their esoteric meanings. In this phase, and aided by the other areas of work in this door, you will charge or load the runic shape name sound with its hidden significances. You may use any method you wish to do this, One way is to associate freely concepts within the field of meaning attached to each stave, while silently repeating the name of the rune and strongly visualizing its shape. These concepts can be presented to the inner senses in many ways, for example, as verbal concepts, as visual symbols, as sounds, even as smells, tastes, or tactile sensations. It all depends on what your mental triggers have been found to be. For example, with Fehu, one might use the verbal concepts of money and power, certainly still loaded words in modern English. The visual symbol might be stacks of greenbacks or ingots of gold, the sound of the overture to Das Rheingold, etc. The point is to begin to build deep-level association between certain key ideas and runic systems. Each rune should develop a crystalline sense for you, simple, perfect, beyond description in natural language. In ancient times, the rune names themselves were so loaded with deep levels of organic culture significance that the rune master probably had an easier time of it than we do today if we seek deeply, however. Well, yeah, I mean, the rune master was telling these stories in a poetic form in a language that was native to him and native to the people that he was telling it to. Here, we are living in bastardized 21st century American English, trying to hear the archaic nuances of Old Norse. Old Norse. Bronze Age Norse. God damn, that's a hard job. Anyway. In ancient times, the rune names themselves were so I'm sorry. Yep. Okay, we're done with this page. Okay, appendices. And then, okay, we're going to read this appendices here, and then we're going to take a break. And when I come back, we're going to read for a little bit further. In the next few doors, you will be concerned with the shaping of rune tines or talismans, either for operative purpose or for divination. You should therefore begin to become familiar with various types of wood and the techniques the runer employs in executing staves and other signs in wood. It is commonly agreed that wood was the original medium into which rune staves were executed. The runic technical terminology makes this quote clear. The most obvious example is the word stave. On staffer, och stab, O-N is Old Norse, right? Staffer. I want to say that's Old High German, which is stab, and O-E must be Old English for staff. Which literally just means stick or staff or wood. The medium quickly became synonymous with the message in this case. However, and soon the word stave took on all the connotations of rune. Even in later times, when runes and rune-like signs were used in medieval and Reformation age magical grimoires, the term used for writing these staves with pen and ink was related to the original word for carving or cutting. This clearly showed that it is proper to use pen and ink in runic operations, but it is just as clearly demonstrated that the most traditional mode is that of carver, rister, and wood. Sorry, you have to hear all this nosiness. The tree and wood are, of course, very important in Germanic lore. Wood is the hard, reliable, yet resilient and living material, which symbolizes the primary essence of humanity, to which living consciousness was given by the divine triad of Wodanaz, Willion, and Wihaz. Wodanaz, Willion, and Wihaz. Why do I not know Willion and Wihaz yet? Why am I forgetting it? Are those other ways of saying Villian Vey? Is that Villian Vey? Is that Honer Lothar? What are we talking about here? For this reason in Kenning, humans are often paraphrased by tree names. It will be the task of the runer to give to the already living essence of the wood a similar loading of consciousness and will direction to be for specific talismanic purposes of or for the general shaping of rune lots for divination. So that would be... So if we're talking about tree names in association to people, that lore specifically revolves around Hother and Lothar. So that would mean that Willion and Wihaz are one of those two. Unless, of course, he is drawing other correlations that I am yet to be familiar with. The tree and wood... The archaeological record clearly shows various ways of carving runes into a wide variety of media. Wood, bone, and metal and stone. A slightly different type of ristar or carver or sax knife is usually employed for the various media, but here we will concentrate on the ristar or sax used to cut into wood. One thing that is quite clear in the archaeological record, despite what you may have read, is that the rune staves were almost always cut across or against, seldom with the grain of the wood. That may be one reason why they generally avoid the 90-degree angle. This is done so that the lines of the rune stave will not get lost in the grain of the wood. When executed in this fashion, the stave is clearly legible even without coloring. All right, so we're going to break right here, and then we're going to continue after that. We're going to read this poem, so on and so forth. I've got to take care of this ultra-clogged nose that I've been dealing with as of late. I maybe was a little congested, from being out in the cold, a couple of days ago, but this is more general stuffiness that I've had. Shut up this whole time. So right now I'm just taking a quick peek and I'm trying to figure out what music I want to play. And I'm probably just going to go and do this thing again. My friend posted this in a group. This fucking album is ridiculous. All right. So we'll go with... All right, so this is Dominance. This song is called Deadly Winter. All right. Excellent. All right. I don't think shamans are allowed to listen to extreme metal. I don't think it's allowed. I think their energy fields would get completely fucking. It's just like they just can't just sit in that energy, right? I mean, they might be able to do like a Black Sabbath or something, something that's got like even tempo, but that it's just like nah. There's it's the old man thing. Now the warrior aspect of the shaman is where the shaman is not the warrior, but the shaman is capable of being a part of war and all that stuff. I mean, that was war before there was very, very large explosions. There wasn't a whole lot of things happening on the battlefield other than clashing of spears and shields and yelling, this kind of thing. But it typically was more like watching a football game without electricity, right? So that's quite a different kind of energy space to do shamanic work in, right? You're a sensitive entity, right? And this is what the difference is when you've got like what you see with Amleth in Northmen, right? Like this is a specific kind of warrior energy proficiency, right? And also it didn't really involve necessarily a near-death experience, but it does involve copious amounts of putting your life in fucking danger. Not walking into the U.S. Capitol where the guys with the guns don't draw them and they just open the door and let you in like you fucking belong there for reasons that are yet to make sense, that you just take at face value. But anyway, you should now set your practicing rune carving. Get a good supply of wood and either with your rister or your socks, experiment with various methods of rune carving. You will see that you can easily and quite quickly scratch the runes into the wood. This method is preferred if no color is to be added, but for more elaborate purposes, you will want more smoothly and carefully to cut the rune shape out with the sharp blade of your sax. Really, the only limit placed on technique is the imagination and ability of the runer. The archaeological record demonstrates this to us well. Practice carving each of the 24 runes, then make a rune stave with all 24 runes on it in the right order. Of course, the eventual aim is to be able to combine this technique with full magical attention, visualization, so the more you can make this a concentrated exercise, the better. But essentially at this point, you are just getting familiar with your tools and the media. Rune poems. During these 240 days, the runer should memorize, if he or she has not done so already, the runic stanzas in English. At this point, you may wish to memorize without using them directly in contemplation. That comes as you pass through the next door. All right. See, the F and the V are the same, but voiceless and voiced. Yeah, basically. Okay, so let me take a sip here, and then we're gonna do these 24 poems. Hey, Tim Timony, good to see you. Old English rune poem. Thehu, wealth, is a comfort to every man, although every man ought to deal it out freely, if he wants before the Lord his lot of judgment. Urus is fearless and greatly honored, a fierce beast. It fights with its horns, a famous roamer of the moor. It is a courageous animal. Thorn is very sharp. For every Thagan who grasps it, it is harmful and exceedingly cruel to every man who lies upon it. All right. So Ansu's he's saying God here. But this is this is it's Ansu's. It means answers. If you're going to do something this archaic, it doesn't mean God. It means answers. I'm going to change that. That's my personal prerogative. It means answers. That energy. These energies, they transcend the gods. Like like Thor doesn't own the Thorisaz rune, but Thor is made up of essence of Thorisaz, right? It's almost like a conscious conduit of it. That may not even be exactly the right way to describe it, right? In my own words, because I'm trying not to just plagiarize what other people say the way they say it, right? Unless they really said it the best, if it even matters to quote them. But all this rune means is that that whatever message that there is, if this rune is with this message, then this message is important and a deep truth, unless it is Merc Stave. Right? That's the rules. Okay. Raido, riding, is in the hall. To every warrior, easy but very hard. For the one who sits up on a powerful horse over miles of road. Torch? Right. He's using... I don't know what that... I don't recognize this symbol for Kanaz. This is Kanaz. I'm going to go Kanaz. This is supposed to be Elder Futhark. I don't know what the heck this... It looks like Uruz, kinda. I've never... I don't know. I've never seen this before. It looks like a lowercase h. Anyway, it is... to every living person. I mean, is it in the younger Futhark? I don't know. This is supposed to be the elder. Known by its fire, it is clear and bright. It usually burns when the noble men rest inside the hall. Gebo, gift, is for every man a pride and praise, help and worthiness. And of every homeless adventure, it is a state and substance for those who have nothing else. Hunyo, joy. is had by the one who knows few troubles, pains or sorrows, and to him who himself has power and blessedness, and also the plenty of towns. Hagalaz, hail, is the whitest of grains. It comes from high in heaven. A shower of wind hurls it. Then it turns to water. Nauthi's need is constricting on the chest, although to the children of men it often become a help and salvation nevertheless, if they heed it in time. Issa ice is very cold and exceedingly slippery. It glistens clear as glass, very much like gems. A floor made of frost is fair to see. So this is harvest. So this is obviously Yera. So this guy has a different Kenaz and Yera, and the Kenaz doesn't look like the Yera at all. It doesn't look like Kenaz mirroring itself askewed. There's a different runic theory happening here, and I don't know where he got it from. And I am not even saying it's a bad thing. In fact, this looks like the Thor rune mirroring itself. Or it looks like an Ingvaj rune, the simple Ingvaj rune, which doesn't have the tail ends, but then it's got a skewer, some sort of axis mundi, and because it's got the Issa running down it, right? So I had to stop and riff on that one for a second because I've seen these symbols used before. I don't know. I have to figure out which system it is. I've been keeping things simple on Elder Futhark and making that for as long as it needs to be. I picked up some younger Futhark to do the Northman film breakdown. Right? But anyway. Huaj, you, is on the outside a rough tree and hard, firm in the earth. Keeper of the fire, supported by roots, it is a joy on the estate. Interesting. What does it mean to be a joy on the estate as this hardy tree? Right? There are many trees that are not the yew tree that are a joy on the estate. What makes this one get that noble title, right? Because the yew tree is a poisonous tree. I mean, there's a lot of things one can enjoy about that, I suppose. Perthro, the lockbox, is always play and laughter among bold men, where the warriors sit in the beer hall, happy together. All right, so this is contextualizing Perthro's lotting, like to, okay, there's the direct gambling, which is the backdrop of the lot box, right? And so this is like, if you have a gambling problem, your fortune, which drives your future, you could lose it all right there, right? There was a gambling situation, I believe, in the beginning of the 13th Warrior movie, which is how Antonio Banderas' character gets recruited onto the mission. Okay. alges, elks. Sedge has its home, and most often in the fen. It waxes in the water, and grimly wounds, and burns with blood any bairn who in any way tries to grasp it. So, that's that's just the danger of the antlered beasts, right? It's just like a fully antlered deer or any of these kinds of deer-like animals out there. They're very quick. They're very quick. And, they'll gore you. They'll fucking gore you if you're not careful. They'll stomp you with their hooves and then come down on, like, we've watched these animals fucking fight. No fucking joke. Okay. Sahul is by seamen always hoped for. When they fare way over the fish's bath and sea, until the brine stallion ships they bring to land. So that's interesting that Saulo is being specifically associated with a seafaring situation. That's an interesting take on it that I normally don't hear, right? Because the sea usually doesn't come up till Laguz or Njord, right? Is inserted into conversation, and Njord. I don't know if Njord and Nothi, people don't usually say so. I mean, there'd probably be a loose relationship of Njord to Nothis, but that just depends on if Njord is like his name, right? Or that whether that N is that N or NJ sound is root of his name, right? And then it would be that indicative, just like the way that Tor is. So anyway, so perhaps later on in this book the logic will be made clear to me, and I will learn something new, because that's a cool angle if it's correct. I don't know if I can settle with this poem for myself. Tyr is a token. It keeps troth well with noble men. Always on its course over the mists of night, it never fails. Yeah, okay. The word token almost sounds beneath the rune Tyr, but I would have to understand more deeply the meaning of token. I don't know if their order changed this poem from whatever original English poem source they incorporated into their order, right? Because this book is loosely an outsider's guide to doing what they do inside their club, right? And so there's details for inside their club, so that's why you got to read the other books that they publish and that kind of thing. I'm not terribly worried about that, although it's awesome to hear all these sources that come out as I read. All right. Bershkana, birch, is without fruit, but just the same it bears shoots without seed. It has beautiful branches high on its crown. It is finely covered, loaded with leaves, touching the sky. The birch is a very interesting tree because they're very rod-like, right? They're very rod-like, and they the tops, like, they don't get a lot of branches that are low. Like, all their branches are like really high up, and there's not like a whole lot. They're an interesting tree, and they got that peely kind of white texture bark. Maybe that kind of feels like what they're saying there with it is finely covered, loaded with leaves. Maybe it's saying that that's a quality of the birchkana, the birch tree, to the birchkana rune. Is that its leaves are wrapped around it. That's a fascinating idea. They spread with their roots. Ah, I see. Ehwaj, horse, is in front of the warriors, the joy of noble men, a charger proud on its hoofs. When concerning it, heroes, wealthy men of war horses exchange speech, and it is to the restless always a comfort. Manhuz, man, is in his mirth, dear to his kinsmen, although each shall depart from the other, for the Lord wants to commit by his decree that frail flesh to the earth. I don't like that the poem uses all these nobility contexts, building these relationshipal aspects, because I don't want to personally evoke a world like that. There's going to be the hierarchy of things, but I want our relationship in that hierarchy to be on my terms. Okay. Lagos, water, is to people seemingly unending if they should venture out on an unsteady ship, and the sea waves frighten them very much, and the brine stallion does not mind his bridle. Ingvaj, Ing, was first among the East Danes, seen by men until he again eastward went over the wave. The Wain followed on. This is what the warriors called the hero. Dehgaz, Day, is the Lord's messenger. Dear to men, the ruler's famous light, it is mirth and hope to rich and poor, and is useful to all. Othal, a state, is very dear to every man, if he can enjoy what is right and accord to custom in his dwelling, most often in prosperity. I think estate is a pretty good, yeah, that's a decent term, right? Then this is oak. I'm trying to remember. I think in one of the rune systems. So hold on a second. Did we skip? You see, there's this, and then there's, that's Ansuj right there, but then you get down here, and that's Ansuj there, but they're using it for the ash tree, right? So there's some stuff where I don't understand why they're doing it like that. it's throwing me off, and I don't know how they would like me to pronounce these symbols. And I have to look up what it is. So let me take a look real fast here, because I should be able to say Norse rune for oak. And funny enough, the Ansu's rune pops up in an early thing here, but let me take a look at images. That might be carved on oak. I don't want carvings. Norse rune meaning for oak. Okay. Let's take a look. Bear with me, guys. I need to find this oddball rune and find out what they say this oddball rune means. I mean, I don't know it from Mean Mr. Mustache's rune set, so I don't think we have anything to worry about there. Ah, jeez. Giving this just a short run here. Come on. All right, I'm about to call it. Because it's giving me all these lists of the runes, which is kind of helpful. Oh, wait. Okay, so I found some place where that Yara rune that he drew is the Yara rune that they're using. So I found a place outside for that. Okay, oh, and here's that one. Okay, there's that rune. So it's an Os rune, and it means mouth in whatever this thing is. And I'm trying to see if it's got... that's the one. Okay, it's Ak. Okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that we're talking about the word Ak. Okay. We as Americans don't like that the nobility fracas, but in ancient Europe it was quite important. Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I get it. But anyway. Where are we? Yes. Okay, so Ak. I don't know if there's a longer word for it, but Ak is oak, is on the earth. For the children of men, the nourishment of meat, it often fares over the gannet's bath. The sea finds out whether the oak keeps noble troth. Then we have Ash is very tall, and very dear to men, steady on its base. It holds its stead rightly through it. It is fought against by many folk. Now hold on a second with bow, because I think I have the bow on this panel that I found as well. Yes. The bow, or the yer, it's like a yer. It's not Yara, because Yara's this other one. It's not you, it's yer, and that's the bow. So the yer is for noblemen and warrior alike, a joy and alike, a joy and dignification. It is excellent on a horse, steadfast on an expedition. It is a piece of war gear. All right. So that looks like the younger Futhark Haggles. This one says serpent for some reason. Is a river fish. Although it always takes food on land, it has a fair abode, surrounded with water where it lives in happiness. Then this, which looks like a... so that's grave. Hold on, I think I saw that one in here too. It's the air, or the earth, symbol. So grave, earth, kind of makes sense. Is hateful to every warrior. Whoa. When steadily the flesh begins, the corpse to become cold, to choose the earth palely as a bedmate. Fruits fall, joys pass away, bonds of faith break. I can... all right, if this is the earth rune, then either we have to change our relationship with the earth, or we have to redefine an appropriate poem, because it's so morbid. It's so morbid, and I don't believe that there's always going to be that morbid context in the magical working. It's the earth. Things grow out of the earth also. Things die, the minerals return to the earth. It's simple. And your spirit returns to the air. The old Norwegian rune rhyme. Fehu gold causes strife among kinsmen. The wolf grows up in the woods. Uhr's slag is from bad iron. Oft runs the reindeer on the hard snow. Thorisas thurs causes the sickness of women. Few are cheerful from misfortune. Okay, this one is interesting. Estuary. I don't think I see... Let me see if that one's on here. Oh, this list I'm looking at. It's the whole list, right? All right, so he's using stuff that's outside of the Elder Futhark. Probably because he's keeping with certain traditional rune poems and not changing them. So I'm fairly cool with what he is doing here. I'm okay with these things popping up because I will be working towards more acumen anyway. But as far as finding this one now, some people write some really weird ones. And I don't mean they're making bind runes. I mean they're making fucking like their version of the alphabets. And they're doing some weird shit. Weird shit! Don't know if I like it. What's going on here? Doesn't have any words. Alright, I'm moving on. I'm just going to go with it. So this is estuary. I'm going to say that maybe this is a Hagalaz situation with this thing. Is the way of most journeys, but the sheath is that way for swords. Okay. Raido, riding. It is said is the worst for horses. Region, forged the best sword. Region is interesting, right? Because there's the Jin region in the Voluspa. And the Jinn region is the name of, like, it sounds like it's the name of the primordial being at the center of Gnungagap, right? You realize as you read more carefully that the context, there's a separation of context. Often in our Norse mythos stuff, and like, I'm not saying that I know what something is because I know what something isn't, but I have, from how I have looked at that poem more carefully, I have realized that the Jinn region is not talking about, it's not talking Odin, Vili, and Ve. It's not talking about the court of Asgard. This is the title. This is the way in which you refer to the Brahmin in Norse mythos, is what I am convinced of, is the Jinn region. Right? So just seeing the word region over here, the Jinn is for Gnungagap, right? You know, so this is the regenerating principle. So this is a sword of, this is a high holy sword, is what this is trying to say, right? So this says sore. I believe that's supposed to be Kenaz. Is the curse of children. Grief makes a man pale. So this is probably the same thing as the ulcer rune, and which might be Uruj, even though we already have the other rune up there, which technically is Uruj. Hoggle, hail, yes, is the coldest of grains. Christ shaped the world in ancient times. What? What? Where is this poem coming from? I guess this is a form of Nauthies. Need makes for a difficult situation. Naked freeze in the frost. Isa, ice. We call the broad bridge. The blind need to be led. Harvest. So this is going to be Gera. Is the prophet of men. I say that Frodi was generous. Sun. This is drawn with a little circle around it. That's different. Is the light of the lands. I bow to the doom of holiness. Fascinating. But look at that symbol, though. Wait. This is cut off. You can't see it. Make sure you can see that. There we go. Sorry about that. Let me resize everything. Make it fairer. There we go. Okay. So look at the sun symbol. Motherfucker, that's Odinma. Look, it's all holes and poles. Look at that. Look at that. It's right there, wherever that rune comes from. If that's the sun, then that's Odinma. That's the Holy Land. Okay. Tyr. So this Tyr rune is one-sided, which makes it look like the opposite of Laguz. Or makes it look like it mirrors Laguz. So this is some of the mirrored rune sets that are out there. Is the one-handed among the Aesir. The smith has to blow often. The smith has to blow often. That's interesting. So this is kind of it's basically talking about the preoccupation of the hands, right? Tyr is one who does important things with his hands. He has one hand available because of how important the work of his other hand is. Berkana, the birch twig, is the limb greenest with leaves. Loki brought the luck of deceit. Interesting. This ties Loki to it. It's a birch twig, but we're supposed to be talking about mistletoe if we're going that route. So that's the algae symbol to me, but they're going with man, so I'm going to say that's Manaz, even though it looks like algae, so I'll say it's algae too. Is the increase of dust. Mighty is the talon span of the hawk. Okay, so that's going with hawk's feet. I like that. Cool. Lagus, water, is that which falls from the mountain as a force, but gold objects are costly things. Hue is the greenest wood in the winter. There is usually, when it burns, singing or singeing, perhaps. This is the Old Icelandic rune poem. Let me take a quick look. How many rune poems did he use? Well, I want to get a good sense of when I want to come to a stop. Okay. Okay, that it would be the end of the rune poems. Okay, that's cool. All right, we're going to go through this last poem. We're going to read the last page there, and then that's going to be it for tonight. Let me see how you guys are doing in. Timothy's lighting it up. His hand is a city in Plaguelands region. Tyr's. Yeah. Tyr is also a Etruscan city. There was an Etruscan city called Tyr. It makes me think. It makes me think because I find it interesting when two different aspects of my ancestry, such as my Italian side, ends up having a aspected relationship to something on my Norse side. It's kind of fun when that plays out. And then the trifecta is even wilder when something on my French side kicks in. Because my Norse side is my Scottish side. And then my Germanic side, right? And that's just two aspects of my father's side. And then my mother's side's all Italian, right? So I've got to follow these two different, wildly different ancestral lines. And there's an overabundance of the Roman stuff, if you know what I mean. So anyway. Fehu gold is the strife of kinsmen and the fire of the flood tide and the path of the serpent. Gold, leader of the war band. Uruz drizzle is the weeping of clouds and the lessener of the rim of ice and an object for the herdsman's hate. Shadow or shower, leader. Thyrsus is the torment of women, and the dweller in the rocks, and the husband of the Etin wife, Varthruna. Varthruna? That's very close to Wardruna. That's very interesting. Saturn, ruler of the legal assembly. Interesting. So here we have now had Saturn evoked. And who was Varthruna? I can't remember. I want to know who Varthruna is. I have to know who Varthruna is. Okay. Pledged, goddess associated with oaths. Oh, okay. Okay, it's the oath wife. Yeah. Gotcha. 1 second. Let me see which one of these is going to be good. Var, goddess of Norse mythology. Var, a Norse goddess, is commonly associated with the oaths and agreements. Her name is derived from the Old Norse adjective var, which, in its feminine form, var, means shrewd, vigilant, or aware. The name var in Old Norse runes is written as, and then it's got, it looks like uruj, ansuj, and then u. I think it's the U tree. It looks like algaes, but they're pointed down. I'm pretty sure that's the U rune. But then that wouldn't spell var, unless that's supposed to be. I don't know. That's weird to me. I think because there's a lot of stuff going on that's outside of the Elder Futhark, it's giving me new mysteries and putting me in an interesting place. So I'm going to keep quiet on that and be the student. She is only mentioned in the Prose Edda, where she is described as a wise and careful goddess who is aware of everything that happens. In the Gylfaginning, the 35th chapter of the Prose Edda, Var is named as the 10th of the Asentur, the goddess of the Aesir lineage. She is described as being wise and inquiring, with the ability to see through any deception and uncover hidden truths. The chapter also explains that a woman is called Var when she becomes aware of something. In Skaldskaparmál, the second part of the Prose Edda, Var is listed among the 27 Asenjur of female deities. However, scholars of Germanic studies, such as Rudolf Simek, suggest that it is uncertain whether Var was actually worshipped as a goddess or if her name was simply used to describe a specific trait or characteristic. That might come from, because with Gylfaginning, with the Prose Edda, you're working with Snorri Sturluson's interpretation of things, right? Because it's something that he put his name to, because he wasn't just transcribing some stuff. I think, in fact, although the Poetic Eddas, as I guess a collected publication, didn't come out till after the Prose Edda was published, even though the Poetic Eddas are the older, which were referred to. So that's also very interesting, because that also tells us that we're actually dealing with an understanding of Norse mythology in the written language that came out under Snorri first. And then the original manuscripts that he was reading were fucking released effectively. Because I'm not entirely sure exactly how much of the oral tradition he was hearing from the oral tradition. The people that were scribing the Poetic Edda would have been the ones getting most of that. And I covered a little bit of that a long time ago on my old channel, but I think it might still be lurking about on Odyssey or BitChute. I'll see if I can find it, or I talk about Snorri Sturluson and I talk about the city of Oddi, which is basically the publishing center for Iceland, right? The whole city is kind of a Hogwarts. Right? It's just like all the books, all the book learning stuff happens there. all the magic you want to hear about was like there at a time. It was kind of like Odin was kind of a library of Alexandria for the Old Norse world when you think about it. You know, it's a small scale version of the library. Anyway, so Var might be that wife of Forseti, and Forseti is believed to be an invention of Snorri Sturluson. Right? He like invented this god of the law. Right? He wanted to paint the pagan world like it wasn't this lawless thing, because they didn't have Jesus or something. And so I think that's something that was going on with where this comes from, because there's no sources. Like, I think Erith Harger covered this on Forseti. Like, there's no real sources of such a god ever existing before this. It's like he's a functionary of a fairy tale imagination of some way that we are lying to ourselves about. But anyway. Let's see. Where was I? Ace is the Olden Father, the Asgard's chieftain and the leader of the Valhalla. Valhalla, Jupiter. Point leader. Riding is a blessed sitting and a swift journey, and the toil of the horse. Journey, worthy man. Sore is the bale of children, and a scourge, and the house of rotten flesh. Whip, king. Hagels, hail, is a cold grain and a shower of sleet, and the sickness of snakes. Hail, battle leader. Comprehend and express ever more complex messages, and perhaps to imbue those messages with deeper layers of meaning, we are faced with a similar situation with the runes. On one level, in rune casting, the runer hears the direct voice of the god within, but less poetically, the runer receives message from the objective of subjective realities in a language that he or she has both learned from tradition and thought within the context of the subjective-objective universes. The objective validity of the runes as a language for this exchange of meaningful communication lies in two factors. They are traditional. The symbolic associations have a long and valid history and were handed down for centuries in unaltered or systematically evolved forms. And they are metagenetic and metalinguistic. For persons of Germanic heritage, they are your esoteric tradition. And for all native English speakers, they have their roots in your very linguistic structure. It is these factors that make the traditional rune staves and the runic system a potent foundation for the workings of the Odian consciousness. Once you have learned the inner language of the runes, you are ready to engage in rune-initiated runic divination, not playing at runes. Given the cosmo-psychological context, the actual way in which runic divination works is simple. Every method of rune casting will consist of two elements: the rune staves in our communication model, the equivalent of the words in natural language, and two, a stead of predetermined meaningful position in which a rune stave may or may not find itself cast or laid, the equivalent of a syntactic position or part of speech in a sentence. In order to make the rune truly speak to you, you must follow a certain inner procedure. First, a link must be forged between the subjective and objective universes. Your inner Yggdrasil is linked with the world Yggdrasil to establish a full range of communicative possibilities. Second, a specific question is posted within the linked context. Concentration at this stage is most important because there the actual inner question is being sent to the linked context. A lack of concentration will send mixed signals, and the result in a less reliable reading. Will result in a less reliable reading. Excuse me. Where'd it go? I'm confused. I moved it so I could read it because I had a little icon in the way. Okay, there's reading. Third, the rune cast is made in the state at which point the link is broken. The return message has been sent, and now it is up to the runer to interpret the message. The fourth step is the actual reading of the runes. This is an active, not a passive endeavor. The passive aspect is only present in the time while the link is in effect. Therefore, the actual rune reading is a synthesis of the active and passive functions, as is the interpretation of mundane language with mundane language. This whole inner and outer process is what is meant by learning to read the runes all right. Learning to read the runes all right. For the non-Odian, such a process will be perceived as one in which the runer poses a question to the subjective universe. To the objective universe, or to the objective entities within it. For example, the Norns. Note small n. Okay, so I'm assuming that when he says small n Norns, he doesn't mean the Norns. He means like your personal Norns, who then manipulate the rune staves as they are in a randomized, chaotic state. For example, as they are in the air, falling to their steads on the white cloth. Excuse me. But for the true Odian, who has learned to expand his consciousness into the objective other universe, symbolized by the Nornic entities, who has learned to give his eye to Mimir's well. A more direct and independent course is indicated for a time. The runer may find himself on a road between these two understandings. All right. Next time we'll be opening up the fourth door. Took me about 2 hours to do all that. That's great. We have 90 pages, more so, of this. Maybe less, because it's 53 out of 143 pages. But that might not all have words on it. There might be pictures. There also might be like the back end, which will take up a couple of pages where the book's already over, right? So anyway, but we're doing pretty good here. We're making some awesome progress. This is an easy read, while at the same time accomplishing its job of giving you some really excellent tools. Like by and large, I'm like, even this part here where I have my kind of confusions about it because of all the other runic systems that are like there's some stuff there that isn't even in the younger Futhark, which means I have to really stretch where I'm looking, because they're far less popularly used. Like, you know, like I don't know like where even their origins are from, right? I like to know where the origin of a thing is from. It's okay if it's been made by somebody, like made by like a secret society or something like that, but like I gotta see what they've published on it. I've got to make sure I've derived all the context, right? This is why I won't use like the list runes, right? This is just like you just don't do it. It's not the right energetic aesthetic. It does something. It does something that I don't want to be. It puts in an energy that I don't want to feel. Right? That's something I would use to express um, an example of what not to do. This kind of thing. So anyway, I don't want to ramble on any further. I want to be done with this. I got to try and handle a few more things because I really want to get done with all this work I'm putting into this Shining presentation. There's a slight possibility that this presentation on the Shining is going to turn into a panel, as I am currently seeing how Ryder feels about working with Slick Dissident. And so I may have Slick and Ryder meet. I'm going to make that happen if that happens. Anyway, I will catch you guys. Right? Let's see. Yes, Icelandic. All right. Yep. All right. Cool. Thank you guys so much for popping in and participating in the chat. And I'll catch you guys later.